Let's get back to stuff here in Australia. The big rate rises that continue. You see those numbers that have all gone up since we had a change of government. I'm not bitter about it, but the reality is you need to know what the actual numbers and the cost of all of this is. And guess what? All of this could have been way worse. Chris Mitchell with the Australian newspaper, he notices all of this. And Chris, what do you feel about Chalmers in particular, where he feels more like passenger than participant, always telling us that he feels our pain, but does nothing to alleviate it?
Well, I think it's interesting that he was so keen for more stimulus and more JobKeeper last year, but this year he's much more worried about interest rates and inflation. So thank God Josh Frydenberg didn't take his advice last year.
Well, exactly. And also, again, part of the drumbeat of the left right now, Laura Tingle, all the rest of them banging on about this now, is that the stage 3 tax cuts that don't come in now, come in later, yes, for a minority of people over $180,000, that they are unfunded. Well, I think we're about to find out in 3 weeks the Australian government is unfunded, aren't we? Because they're going to turn around and tell us that there's tens of billions of dollars worth of stuff they couldn't possibly cut that they have to borrow to pay for.
Well, it's interesting that many left-wing journalists are not on board with tax reform, but they're quite happy for unfunded childcare reforms. They're quite happy for free childcare for people earning $530,000 a year. But not for tax reform for people at the top end who have been paying most of the tax for the last 2 decades.
Well, and then what about the scenario, again, of the more activist side of things, which is get out of coal, get out of gas, tell everyone they can't have a petrol car anymore. Last time I checked, that would cost the budget a few $billion. But again, those policies are fine, but tax cuts, which mean people keep their own money, the logic being that people with more money spend money, you take it back through the GST, that's how the government doesn't end up losing money. So they're more than happy for the unfunded promise of electric vehicles everywhere, but everything else that they don't like, well, look at the debt, look at the deficit.
Yeah, look, we're really lucky that we've got coal and iron ore because they saved us during the GFC. It wasn't really Rudd and Swan and Labor's spending and building the education revolution and various other things. And I think we're going to be very lucky this year. The one thing that will save this government will be massive increases in tax receipts on coal and iron ore.
Yeah, exactly. State governments are exactly the same. I love the Queensland government. We're going to spend $62 billion greening everything, but the actual budget is paid for by that dirty stuff in the ground. Chris, lovely to read you and awesome to have you on the telly. Thank you very much. Chris Mitchell there.
Thanks for having me.